So for me, I'm IT trained. I studied computer science in UK, and after I came back to Singapore, I worked as a software developer. So I did desktop applications, then I transited to software, then I transited to web applications and full stack development. Eventually, I led teams to do a software project and also did a bit of business development. I think that's the first half of my professional career. The second half was really to join my family business, which was in commercial tires. And I think one of the reasons why I joined it is because innately I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was intrigued in running businesses, right? So that was a natural decision for me to go in. But on a more personal note, I think it's because my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer then, and so I wanted to go in to help out. And I think one good thing that came out of it was that I got to spend time with him. We had a common topic. It was like a father-son bonding time. So that was something that is precious to me. I think in terms of lesson-wise, I would have to say cash flow, because we are not a startup. So revenue, we do have revenue, we do have customers, right? Not that revenue is not important, but I think cash flow in terms of giving credit terms was something that was very tricky and something that we managed really carefully. Because I think in my industry, some of the customers may take up to 60 days, 90 days, some even up to 6 months to pay. So we really have to chase for payments without wrecking the relationship. At the same time, when new customers do come, we have to be careful about giving terms as well, because we wonder if they had a bad relationship or they were bad paymasters with other suppliers. So we really have to manage the credit terms very carefully to make sure that we get the customers to pay on time and also onboarding new customers. So that was some of the biggest challenge or biggest lesson that I take away from it. While running the family business, I think it's got to do with people, right? HR related, and very specifically, it's about when I have to let people go. It could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe the person or the staff is underperforming, maybe the role is no longer, or the role is redundant, or maybe it's simply just because of cost cutting. But whatever the reason, letting go of someone is never an easy decision, even when the person is underperforming, right? Because it can be very emotional. You've worked there for many years. Sometimes colleagues can become like family members. And I think in my experience, I learned that many a times when managers are letting people go, they make it about themselves. So for example, they say, it's difficult for me to tell you this. I didn't want to do this. It's about me. But I learned that you really have to you have to be empathetic about them. Don't make the conversation unnecessarily long, right? And then pay them fairly. If it's a retrenchment, pay what you can that is reasonable, and support them in any ways you can. A bit embarrassed to say this, but really because one of the reasons is I watched Shark Tank, right? In that series, you get to see a lot of things. You get to see greed not just from the investors, right, but greed from the founders as well. But on the other hand, you get to see empathy, right, and why the founders are doing what they're doing. And in fact, there are special episodes that show how the angel investors are helping the founders to grow, like from a few $1,000s of revenue to millions of revenue. So it was really inspiring to see that. And I think locally you see some of the success stories like Grab or Sea, Ninja Van. And it's inspiring to see that these are companies that was nurtured in Singapore. But I think for me, the one that's most memorable is Creative Technologies, right? By Mr. Sim Wong who built his Sound Blaster technology and got into Silicon Valley. I think he really was the pioneer, was an inspiration to us all. So I think that on top of my interest in entrepreneurship, I think all converges to this one point where I realized I could be part of a startup ecosystem. I could play a part, hopefully a positive impact on the startups here. And so that's why I got involved in angel investing. I think challenges-wise, number one is really finding out more about angel investing. It's not just investing X amount of dollars, getting a percentage of equities. As I start to learn about it, there's so many things. You need to know what is a safe, what's a C notes. And within those terms, when you look at SHA and SSA, you need to know what is tag along rights, drag along rights. I was thinking to myself, what in the world is right of first refusal? What am I refusing here? So it was a steep learning curve. And I think for me personally, I'm the kind who likes to get involved, get my hands dirty, right? And because of the lack of opportunity to invest, I can't really internalize some of these nuances. So I think for me, what I did was I started to talk to people, venture capitalists, VCs, and I got introduced to AngelCentral. That's where I know they have a community of angel investors, and that's where I could learn from other angel investors, could learn from the founders of AngelCentral, like Xing, Xiaoning, and Ling. And I think that really helped, especially when I got involved. I was able to invest into startups. I think for brick and mortar businesses, I understand the need for CAPEX and even OPEX, right? There's a lot of funding that's required just to get started. And after you started, there's no guarantee of profit. There's no guarantee of revenue. So I think in that sense, I tend to be a bit biased towards tech-based startups because really all you need is sweat equity at the start, right? And once you do once you have your MVP, you do your iterations and you've got traction, that's where we can talk about funding, right? Where funding will help you to be able to scale, to move beyond the Singapore market into the neighboring regions. So on that basis, I suppose I'm biased towards the tech side, but I would say I'm agnostic. I would still explore other verticals, and I think mainly I look at the founders. In fact, recently I invested with AngelCentral into one of the syndicates that invests into a FMCG company. So yeah, I would say I'm open to all, but biased towards tech. Whether there's a market size for it, because it can be scalable, but if the market cannot take in all that, if there's no market size for it, then you can't really grow. Yeah. So I think market size is something that I look into as well. The AngelCentral syndicate. Yes. Okay, I think for me, it's a bit underwhelming. Underwhelming because, maybe I was a bit too idealistic. I think that angels need to really get their hands dirty, to do a deep dive, to understand the founder and the businesses. But I think because AngelCentral has done syndicates for so many startups over so many years, they've really refined their processes, right? All we need to do is just to attend the pitch day, do the office visit, and then you get access to the data room. You can ask any questions you want. So it's very easy, right? Not that it's no good, is that AngelCentral has done all the heavy lifting. In fact, what it does, it gives me the space and time to evaluate for myself, right? So I look at the founders, and I look at the data room that they shared. And on top of that, they have a syndicate lead. So I get to ask questions why they want to invest into this startup, and also with other investors that come on board. And I think the good thing is that investing into the startup as a group, there is that confidence. And for the founder, they get access to a list of investors, right? They can tap onto their expertise or their network. So for all that reasons, and because it's so seamless, right? It's easy for me to make the decision to invest. Of course, it's still up to it's entirely up to me to make the decision. I do not rely on anyone. I take responsibility for investing into the startup myself. Okay, for the review committee, I think it was a very steep learning curve, and I enjoyed it very much. I remember one of the first few startups that I interviewed, or that I reviewed, was in the biotech, and I know nothing about biotech, and I do a deep dive. By deep dive, I really mean scratching the surface, right? So, but doing that helped me to understand that vertical a bit better. It gave me a new perspective of what they are doing, right? And in another domain, right, I got to visit the central kitchen. It was an FMCG company, and I got to see how they prepare the food. So I enjoyed learning all these different domains, right, and getting a fresh perspective on it. On the other hand, also, the other aspect is I started off with reviewing one or two startups, and it took me some time. because I had to really understand the domains that they were in. But by and by, I got better at it, and now when there's a list of startup, I would review the entire list. But I balance between speed and accuracy because I can't spend hours or days on one startup, right? So I would have my own review processes, and I will be able to quickly identify which are the ones that I think I have the potential, and then just talk to them. So doing all this helped me to be able to refine my thinking, sharpen my thinking, and to be able to identify which are the ones that I want to spend a bit more time in. Yeah. I think first of all, I like the learning part, right? Learning not just from the founders, but also from fellow investors. Learning about the new industry, I think that really intrigues me. I think the other part about angel investing is that talking to founders, right? Where I could play a part in talking to founders, where I can play a part in bouncing ideas off with them as well and sharing some of the experiences that I have. And for angel investing, I think it's perfect for me because it's in the early stages, right? And that is where I think I can add value. And hopefully I could journey alongside them and till they hit maybe Series A, and then the VCs can take over, right? But if I could do that, go with them together in this journey, I think that would be very meaningful for me, and hopefully it's a positive impact in the ecosystem as well. Well, I would say, first of all, angel investing is a high-risk asset class, right? They say 9 out of 10 will fail or plateau. So you really got to set aside a budget for it, and you really got to be disciplined about it. If 9 out of 10 will fail, that means you really need to diversify your portfolio and invest into a range of startups, right? In order to get the possibility of a return. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is that I think I hear some of the angel investors, they might want to be very involved in the startup. So much so they might micromanage, or they might ask for very detailed reports or very frequent reports. But I think for angel investors, our role is really to be a cheerleader for them, right? To really walk alongside them, journey with them, and to share experiences where possible, or open up doors for them, right? And just to cheer them on and help them along the way, not so much to micromanage them. Yes, we do invest our funds, but I think the whole point of angel investing is to help in the startup ecosystem, to help it to flourish, so that we can see more of these founders coming up, at least in the Singapore landscape. Well, my LinkedIn profile I think is public, so you can search for me, Desmond Ling. I think that's about it. You can search for me on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to have a coffee with you.